A few people were excitedly playing with the jumping machine, and the timid girl was responsible for taking photos of her companions. However, while checking the photos, she strangely discovered that the light sign with the words "falling from high altitude" had just turned off one of its letters during the photo shoot, becoming a symbol of death from high altitude. This made Wendy feel a bit unlucky, but she didn't tell her companions about it because they were mentally prepared to play a more thrilling roller coaster. But the constant screams and trembling pipes made him a little uneasy. Quickly, a few people lined up at the front of the queue and sat right in front of the next flying car. Wendy quickly said no, she was really scared, but everyone else wanted to experience the most exciting position. In the end, a few people decided to have their best friend's boyfriend Rigo accompany her from behind by guessing the coins, and they randomly chose a middle position. Quickly, the safety gate opened, but the bald one aimed at the opportunity and crawled in first, just because she wanted to secretly take pictures of the two spicy girls in the front seat. There's no way, the two can only sit in the last row. Subsequently, the safety bar began to fall, but Shohei found himself without a buttonhole. The staff casually pressed it to the end, unaware that this action caused the hydraulic pipeline below to start leaking oil. At this moment, Wendy took out her camera and wanted to take a picture of her classmates, but was stopped by the staff in an instant. It is prohibited to hold any loose items while riding here. Rigo quickly helped him put them in his pocket. Seeing the bald head in front of him, he quickly hid the camera he had just taken out in his pocket. At this moment, Rigo also touched a piece of chewing gum he had eaten, and this comical scene finally made Wendy relax. Immediately after, the staff pressed the button, and the death roller coaster slowly began to depart. The gears of fate also turned, and the car slowly climbed up the steep slope. The bald head also took out the camera again after starting, and as they gradually reached the pinnacle, everyone became increasingly excited. But what they didn't know was that the hydraulic oil was dripping faster and faster, and the sensed iron chain stopped in time. However, at this time, the car had quickly floated down according to convention, and the strong speed and weightlessness made everyone excited and scream. The bald girl even started to use vulgar language. Angry, she casually took the camera in front of her face, but unexpectedly knocked it off and fell onto the track. The next second, the roller coaster that collided back ran over it, causing it to instantly deviate from the track and hydraulic oil to leak out frantically. The safety bar quickly lifted under weightlessness, and everyone had to hold onto it tightly to avoid falling off. It was the same scream, but now the emotions have changed from excitement to panic. In no time, the wheels under high-speed friction were followed by flying, and then the front few sections of the car were thrown out at a bend. Shohei was also thrown out of the car at high speed. He tightly grabbed the body of the car and wanted to climb back, but coincidentally, the car reached a spiral bend, and he could no longer catch it and was thrown away. Upon seeing the situation, Lego risked lifting the safety bar to secure it, but the next second, a damaged piece of iron sheet was torn and rotated, hitting it, struggling it hard. Immediately after, the roller coaster sped down, and Wendy could only tightly block Reggie with her hands to prevent him from flying away. But then they faced a bigger problem. The power of the roller coaster finally stopped under the obstruction of the 360-degree rotating track, but now everyone was hanging upside down in mid-air, and soon they all fell out of strength. Only the two of them were still struggling to persevere. They vigorously shook back and forth, and finally successfully shook the body before falling. The roller coaster was quickly extended back, but Rigo, who was preparing to sit down, did not know that the iron pipe had just been smashed and cut in the next second. The only remaining Wendy was also bounced up by the broken rail and fell to the ground in desperate screams. When he woke up, he found himself still at the starting point. Wendy quickly grabbed a hand and found the chewing gum from her dream. At this moment, the car was about to start, and he screamed in agony that the roller coaster would derail, allowing himself to get off. There's no way, the manager can only lift the safety bar behind him to get off the car. Shohei angrily scolded him for being sensational and wasting time, and soon clashed with Lego, who had a sharp mouth. The other students saw the situation and quickly stepped forward to fight, and the group of people were all kicked out by the staff. Wendy's boyfriend sitting in front also wanted to get down, but the staff still sent out the car under the shouting of the remaining people. And just as the troublemakers were being kicked out, Wendy's boyfriend's death caused great pain, but Lego rushed over. He found out that a similar air disaster had occurred a few years ago, and those who escaped the disaster eventually died mysteriously one after another. The order of death was exactly their seat order. Sad Wendy was completely unfortunate, thinking that Reggie was still joking at the moment. However, when she went home to look at the camera and reminisce, she found that the roller coaster in the photo was right behind her boyfriend, as if a sharp sword had penetrated his brain. And in the next picture, those two spicy girls are holding toys and laughing heartily, but the flickering lights make the photo seem a bit angry. At this moment, the two of them happened to be sitting in the sunbathe, but the boss was in a hurry to call his girlfriend and let them come in to take care of themselves. Not drinks in the room, okay? Then she picked up sunscreen and covered the door as she walked out, but the spicy girl didn't listen to any advice. She risked her life and walked into the nursing room with a cold drink. She then casually placed the cup on the table and took a disc from the shelf, only to find that the shelf had become loose as a result. At the same time, the hardness of the sunscreen cannot stand the cover at all, and it is slowly squeezed open by its force. With the gradual increase of the squeezed lotion, the thickness of the sunscreen is becoming more and more flat. In the end, the door still closed and locked from inside. At this point, the two of them had already fallen into the instrument, but as the room temperature grew higher and higher, a large amount of water droplets hung on the cold drink cup, gradually flowing to the bottom of the cup, forming a pool of water that dripped down the table into the transformer below. Soon, the inside of the transformer started to ignite, and the temperature of the machine began to rise uncontrollably. Gradually, the spicy girl felt hotter and hotter.
It's way too warm in here now, huh?
At this moment, a gust of evil wind blew into the ventilation duct, and then the clothes hanger was blown down, smashing the already loose frame. The wooden board slid down from above and got stuck between the two machines. The two unknowns couldn't open it no matter how hard they pushed, and slowly the temperature of the machine exceeded its limit. The boss, who heard the scream, quickly entered the house to check, only to find that the door had been locked. Soon, the damaged machine caught fire, and the two of them were also trained to death in the high temperature. Wendy finally believed what Reg said this time, because he found that the cause of death of his companions was hinted at in the photos taken at his amusement park. And if, as Rigo said, death kills people in order of their seats, then the next one will be the bald one who snatches the seat. They quickly stopped the car and prepared to look at the photos for clues. But Wendy suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart, and then saw a truck reversing towards this direction. He quickly shouted and slapped a reminder, but the truck still crashed into it. What's even more alarming is that a runaway truck on the hillside plunged down from the positive pole speed tide on this side. Wendy realized that something was wrong and quickly prepared to open the door and get off the car, but due to the obstruction of the truck, she couldn't open the door. Rigo quickly honked the horn to let the front car drive away, but what he received was a disdainful gesture from the other party. Wendy had no choice but to signal the back car, and the man finally saw the out-of-control truck behind him. He quickly reversed and left, but the two of them had no time to escape. Rigo saw this and quickly damaged the windshield, finally climbing out before the truck collided. The engine was killed and the rotating fan blades flew out, instantly cutting half of the head of the person in front of the car. This person is actually the next target of death, bald. After returning home, the two finally saw the fan hinted at in the photo, but it was too late. They quickly studied the order from the only seat photo, but two of them blocked it with their backs and couldn't see it. Wendy proposed analyzing everyone's photos thoroughly, but at this moment, Kalegu suddenly became hesitant. He didn't have the courage to know about his death. If he looked at it now, he would be scared and unable to do anything well. The top priority was to find a solution quickly, unless it was their turn to open and check again. Immediately, the two quickly took the photo and found the next victim, Xiaohei, but the other person didn't believe this kind of thing at all. While they were arguing, Wendy found that the double swords on the team badge of the training hall were exactly the same as in the photo, and the black bear sandbag beside it was also shown in the photo. Wendy was certain that this gym was the location of the accident, but the irritable little black said nothing and sat under the team's ashes to train, constantly humiliating death in his words. But what he didn't know was that every move he made shook the upper part, and his two knives kept shaking. The next second he swung the dumbbell and knocked the black bear's paw away, hitting his teammate's eye. The teammate ate the pain and threw the barbell to the ground, and the intense vibration directly shook the two knives down. Fortunately, the sharp giant blade only brushed past and cut the rope of the fitness equipment. Xiaohei shouted excitedly and then made another downward pressure with excitement. Wendy blamed himself deeply for this. Although he knew the next move of death, he still couldn't prevent the tragedy from happening. Rigo quickly stepped forward to comfort him. Now is not the time to be discouraged, as there are still companions to save in the future. The two of them came directly to find the victim, who was a couple working in a hardware factory. Because they were in the same row while riding the speeding car, and the previous two spicy girls died at the same time, they didn't know who came first and who came last. But soon, Wendy found that the banner above her head was the same as in the photo, and this place was filled with sharp weapons, which must be the best place for Death to implement his plan. In the photo, Curly Hair was pointing a toy gun at his girlfriend, and they couldn't guess the meaning behind it. They had to rest for a few days and stop working. Curly Hair sneered at this, and although his girlfriend was skeptical, she still decided to finish her work and leave. But at this moment, the gears of fate had already begun to rotate. Curly was tidying up the clutter when he pushed the box behind him, and his girlfriend accidentally woven an iron chain while placing the iron rod. After turning, she hung the start switch of the forklift below. As Curly Hair left, it accidentally bumped into the shelf, causing the jar to fall off while shaking, hitting the box onto the accelerator. The forklift slowly started moving in an unnoticed corner and quickly inserted itself into a nearby shelf. The hammers hanging on top fell off one after another, hitting the operating rod. The forklift began to lift the shelf forcefully, but fortunately, the ladder stacked on the other end caught it. At this moment, Curly still doesn't want to lose this job and is still looking for the loophole that Rigo and his team mentioned. He proposed that since the Grim Reaper kills in order, if the last person on the list dies prematurely, would it disrupt the Grim Reaper's plan and allow the remaining people to be rescued directly? Wendy glared angrily at him. He kindly came to save someone, but the other person wanted to kill him. With this reminder, he suddenly remembered the girl in the photo pointing to the sky, and the banner above prominently wrote the word kill. Wendy looked up in terror. There. The next second, the ladder could no longer stop it from breaking, and the lifted shelf caused sharp wooden strips to fall straight down. It seems that the curly hair card is in front of his girlfriend. Fortunately, Wendy discovered it in time and saved her life, so the death list will skip him and continue to pursue him. The next second, the wooden stick was bounced up, and the girl who had been hit by the sawdust lost her balance and fell backwards. In an instant, she hit the nail gun, and the shot nail pierced through her head. The two were quickly taken to the police station for questioning, and by the time they came out, 10 hours had already passed. Now, no matter who the two people who cannot be seen clearly are, we must be prepared for each other's death and their turn. After returning home, Wendy continued to study the photos, suddenly realizing that one of them was wearing a bracelet, which belonged to his sister Julie. At this moment, he was preparing to attend the school fireworks party. Wendy quickly called to remind him, but couldn't get through. He could only call Reggie to inform him of all this. Fortunately, Reggie happened to be here tonight. When the security guard promised to protect him, Reggie reminded him that it was time to take a look at their photos, as the two of them who followed closely behind were likely to be affected and killed. Wendy quickly opened her photo and found that the background was black, without any hint. The only abnormality was wearing a school uniform, and Lego's background was also a black one, only the overexposure of the flash made his expression painful, as if fireworks were splashing on his face. Lego immediately understood that his calamity would also occur at tonight's fireworks party, which made him mentally tense and felt that something was wrong in any place that caught fire. At this moment, the party is about to begin. Lego quickly cleared the scene and asked unrelated personnel to leave. The performer casually placed the prop at the muzzle of the gun, but in no time, the prop collapsed and smashed into the nearby shell. The bullet rolled and knocked down the wooden stick, causing the unsupported fireworks car to suddenly become unstable. On the other hand, Lego finally found Julie and wanted to take her away, but the other party ran away in rebellion. At this moment, Wendy also rushed to the shock, but the next second, all the lights of the party went out, and then the fireworks began to bloom. The shaking of the fireworks car also intensified, and at this moment, the bear's firecrackers scared the horse. Startled, he directly pulled up the wooden cone inserted on the ground and ran wildly in the crowd. At the same time, Reggie finally stopped Julie, but in exchange for the international jewelry, Wendy also came over, which instantly reminded him of the previous photo. Shu Yan's horse rushed towards him in the next second, and Lego quickly pushed it away. However, the rope tied to the wooden cone wrapped around it in an instant, driving it and dragging him quickly on the ground. The horse then crossed a car with spikes. Fortunately, Lego grabbed the prop sword and rushed forward, cutting the rope in one go, preventing the tragic ending of Julie's tragic death under the car. The horse was gradually being controlled by others, and his companions quickly ran over to check. However, Wendy chased after him, who was still in shock, constantly asking who was sitting next to him on the roller coaster that day. A girl next to her suddenly became frightened upon hearing this. At the same time, the fireworks driver once again startled the horse, causing the rope to break the tied flagpole and insert it into the body of the girl who was about to escape like a sharp sword. Rigo, who wanted to control the horse, was also kicked away with a kick, and the iron stick was directly inserted into the pipe, causing a gas leak. Soon, a violent explosion occurred. Fortunately, Wendy pulled him away in time and saved him, but he was even more nervous at this moment because it was his turn after Rigo. At this moment, Curly Hair walked against the crowd and, seeing his appearance in school uniform, Wendy immediately understood that he was his own calamity. Originally, Curly had been blaming Wendy for his girlfriend's death, believing that all disasters were brought by her. Knowing that he was the end, he closely followed Wendy. It's
me. For me, it is. I'm not dying.
At this moment, the swaying fireworks car fell directly to the ground, and the fireworks tube tilted along with it. Wendy, who had a feeling in her heart, quickly pulled a few people and threw them down. The fireworks went through the curly fur and smashed towards the crane behind her. You see.
I'm not gonna die. It's you, Wendy. You're
dead. The next second, the rocker arm suddenly broke, and the billboard above fell instantly, smashing the curly hair into the naked eye. His death also enabled Wendy to successfully skip the Grim Reaper. Soon, 5 months later, the sisters took the subway to find their father. Suddenly, Wendy had a bad feeling. The sister said that everything was over, so she should not worry. Wendy also felt too suspicious, but the next second, the two of them saw Reggie in the corner, who happened to be taking this subway, which made Wendy feel uneasy. At this moment, a mouse stealing chocolate suddenly bumped into a broken electrical wire, and the tracks were instantly modified, causing the subway to slip and causing everyone to be thrown upside down. The iron wheel also crashed under friction, and Julie was directly hit and killed, while Reggie was also sucked out of the car after the window broke, and his entire upper body was ground to pieces. Wendy was also thrown out under the impact. Fortunately he did not die, but his leg was severely injured and he could not move. But at this moment, another subway car rushed over from behind. Wendy, who had come to her senses, found herself still in the subway and once again had a premonition of the impending danger. No, it's not. Agu and his companions quickly rang the alarm to get off the car, but this time death will not give them any more chance.